Hello everyone, I'm bringing you the Mannequin of the Month for February 2024 today. Before we get into the main topic we're going to talk about here, I just wanted to give you a brief update. I'm very hopeful that later in February I'll be able to return to 2 videos a week. I can't guarantee that, but I'm hoping that will be possible. Still getting into the swing of things with Robert, and obviously university is still sort of rumbling on in the background as well, but I'm hoping that later in the month we'll be able to return to a schedule of uploading 2 videos a week. That's what I'm aiming for. If that changes, again, I will keep you updated, I'll let you know. Getting into the main topic here, of course, this was the topic we're going to talk about was chosen via a poll over on Patreon, and the option over there was RAF ground crew, the immediate post-war years, the 1950s and the 1960s, those 2 decades post-Second World War, and that was the topic that topped the poll. And more specifically, we're talking about a junior technician in the Royal Air Force at this time, wearing the working uniform. So this is the sort of thing you'd see working on aircraft and so forth. So the rank itself, we'll talk about more in just a minute, but the immediate post-war years, believe it's in 1950, the RAF introduced technician ranks alongside sergeant and flight sergeant and so forth. You had technician ranks, and we'll talk about that a little bit more when we look at the rank insignia round on the right arm in just a moment. Talking about the Mannequin in more detail, starting at the top here, we have by then the standard headgear, the RAF beret, and this would be sort of mid-1950s onwards, because we have the St Edward's crown there on the OA's cap badge, and as you can see there, the RAF cap badge with RAF initials in the centre, the wreath around and the crown surmounting that. Pretty standard stuff. And the collar there, you can see the blue shirt and the black necktie there worn underneath this. This could of course be worn over the war service dress and the post-war versions of war service dress, which of course was basically the RAF's version of battle dress, made in blue-grey serge as opposed to drab. But in this instance we just have the shirt underneath there, there's no blouse underneath. And what we have as the top layer is a one-piece overall made in green denim, and this is made the same material. You see the denim uniform, the Second War era and post-war denim battle dress uniform. It's made from the same material as that, so very heavy weight. It must have been quite an expensive garment to manufacture, because there are various features to this. There are Newey press studs used extensively throughout, the concealed button closure down the front. There's even a hook and eye at the collar here, so this can be worn hooked right up at the collar. And this design of overall was used from, it appears, the very late 1940s. That seems to be the earliest photographs I can find of this, around 1948, somewhere around there, possibly 47, and then worn right the way through the 1960s and possibly even into the very early 1970s. I've tried to nail down dates looking at photographs, because I found no documentation on this at all, but that does seem to be the sort of range of years when this was used, and then in the 1970s more simple and cheaper to produce overalls were introduced. But as I say, made of green denim, has various interesting features. Concealed button closure down the front there, and you can see sort of battle dress sized buttons down the front there, and the concealed buttons underneath the flap down the front here. As already mentioned, hook and eye at the collar, so it can be closed right up. There are breast pockets inside here, but no external breast pockets. There's a draw cord at the waist, which can be tied off inside, and there are various external pockets. There are hip pockets and a pocket on the leg. And the cuffs, which I can show you here before we start moving this around, they can be adjusted in with Newey press stud, and as you can see there are 2 male press studs there, and then the female on the little flap on the cuff here, and that can be used to tighten this in around the wrist as required. So Newey press studs are used extensively throughout this uniform, pocket closures and so forth, and we'll see more of that as we move this round. One other thing I will mention here, the cuffs of the ankle also open. They have a gusset in there, and they have adjustment with Newey press studs as well, so they can be tightened in around the ankle as required. As well as being used for crew servicing aircraft and so forth, I've also seen photographs of these overalls in use with national servicemen who are in basic training, and they have full sets of web equipment on over the top of the overalls, and clearly they're exercising in the field and they're actually wearing the overalls for that purpose as well, which makes good sense. It saves fouling and dirtying the serge uniform, wear the overalls instead. So I've seen that used for these as well, but primarily intended for use by ground crew working on aircraft. And obviously that's what the Mannequin is set up to represent here. We'll start moving this around now and have a look at some of the other details of the uniform. We'll talk a little bit more about the rank as well. So moving this around to look at the right hand side, I have a rank armband here, rank brassard on the arm with the rank of a junior technician. You'll notice there are actually 2 black paint marks up on the shoulder here, so it's possible that this was worn by a flight lieutenant at some point, or whether they are just streaks of black paint I don't know. They aren't on both shoulders, but I just thought I'd mention that here. Given we have the distinct M on the front here, it's possible those marks were made for a reason. I don't know. The rank worn on the arm here is on a brassard, an armband. These were made for use with this uniform. They were also worn with brown shop coats by some RAF personnel who wore those when working in certain roles. And they display rank on one arm only. Looking at photographs, they seem to be worn on the right or the left arm. Doesn't seem to be any rhyme or reason to that, but they're specifically designed for this purpose, obviously made of the same material. And you have in this instance the Junior Technician's rank, which is an inverted single chevron. Now this is equivalent to leading aircraftmen, who of course wore a different distinctive rank badge, but for junior technicians that was done away with, and you have the inverted chevron. For the next grade of technician up, you'd have two inverted chevrons and so forth. So for technical ranks, for technician ranks, the chevrons were inverted compared to those of the regular ranks in the RAF, going up through obviously leading aircraftman, the corporal and so forth. So you have that inverted chevron to display that. When these were used by flight sergeants, so you'd have the full set of 3 chevrons on there, you have a buttonhole here and one here. Depending on which way it needed to be worn up, whether it was a technical grade or not, you could attach a crown using the buttonhole here. You didn't need to make holes specifically for that through the armband. You had buttonholes top and bottom for the attachment of crowns if required. That attaches with snaps or press studs around the back here. As you can see, there are a series of 3. I unfasten this here, a series of 3 there to allow this to be tightened up around the arm depending on how many layers of clothing were worn underneath, and as I say, designed specifically for use with this uniform. We've already seen the cuff of the arm. If I lift the arm out of the way here, you can see we do have a hip pocket. This flap with a Newey press stud conceals both a hip pocket, which is part of the overalls, and also a slit which allows you to get through to the pockets of the trousers worn underneath as well. So you have both integral pockets and the ability to get to the pockets of the garment worn underneath this as well. You can also see the channel for the draw cord coming round at the waist here, and as I say, that just ties off inside to draw the waist of this in, stop it being too baggy when it's worn, give a bit of variability in the size. So there we are, that's the right hand side of the mannequin. We'll keep moving this around now and have a look at the back. There's not a huge amount more to see at the back here other than details of the construction of the overalls. You can see you have a central seam running down the back here, again the draw cord coming round here. You have the seams coming down underneath the arm there, and the central seam running round the seat there, as you can see. As I say, other than that, there's not a huge amount more to see here. It's just a very plain green overall. We'll move this around and have a look at the left hand side now. And finally, moving around to look at the left-hand side of this, the sleeve is of course a mirror image of the other side with the cuff and everything, as we saw before. You can see the channel again for the draw cord here. Beneath that, we again have the hip pocket with the Newey press stud and flap there, and obviously the slit to get through to the inner trousers worn underneath this. And then we do on this side have an external pocket. We have a patch pocket here. If I can just unfold the leg, we have a patch pocket there with a flap and a Newey press stud there again to close that. Relatively small pocket down on the leg there, as you can see. An external pocket on the leg, just a patch pocket stitched on the outside there. And that's the left-hand side of the mannequin. So I do hope you found it interesting looking at this. Not a particularly long mannequin of the month this month, obviously not a huge amount of detail to talk about here, but nevertheless I do hope you found this interesting. If you have found it interesting and you'd like to see more of this sort of thing, please do consider subscribing to the channel if you haven't already. And whether you're newly subscribing or you've previously subscribed, please do make sure you hit the little bell, the notification button down below. That will of course alert you when I upload future videos. If you really like my uploads and you would like to support the channel, you can. Both Patreon and PayPal are linked down below. And as I always say, a huge thank you to everybody who supports the channel using those 2 methods. It's always greatly appreciated. As I say, thank you all very much indeed. Of course, if you'd like the chance to vote on what's going to be covered in Mannequin of the Month each month, the corporal tier over on Patreon gives you the opportunity to vote in the poll as to what's going to be covered. So if you're interested in that, it's linked down below in the description. If you'd like to follow the channel on social media, you can. Facebook, Instagram and Twitter are all linked down below, and there will of course be photographs of this posted up over there as well if you'd like to take a closer look. And if you'd like to get in touch but you don't really use social media, there is of course an email address in the description as well. That's everything for this video, so until next time, bye for now.